I'm Alex Paris. I've been with Crestron for the past 9 years, and I've actually been in the professional audio video industry for the past 15 years. And during that time, we have seen tremendous transformation and change, or at least I have witnessed tremendous transformation and change. There obviously has been a lot of change and transformation well before I joined the industry. So today, I'm going to start off by talking about the transformations that are shaping our technology today. And then from that, the experiences and behaviors that are becoming natural and kind of commonplace in what we know of and work through today. And then I'll move into how Crestron provides platforms that can solve the technology challenges of today and continue to evolve to bring us to the technology of the future. And then I'll wrap it all up at the end. So before I get started into the transformations, I really wanted to start off with a quote Satya Nadella, the CEO at Microsoft, said recently. He said that over the past year, no area has undergone more transformation than the way that we work. Our employee expectations are changing, and we need to define productivity much more broadly, inclusive of the collaboration, learning, and well-being to drive career advancement for every worker, including the frontline and knowledge workers, as well as the new graduates and those who are in the workforce today. All of this needs to be done with flexibility in when, where, and how people work. So this transformation is, as all of you are aware, really is what is influencing us for the last 13 months. When parents who were used to bringing their children to daycare or school found out the daycare and the school was now going to be at home, and so was their office, as so familiar in the middle picture. Or students who were used to attending lecture rooms and interacting live with classmates and professors switched completely to online learning with virtual video conferencing at the center of how they learned. And then there are other 100 examples that I could talk about, but another example is a salesperson who was used to traveling and selling and meeting with their customers and connecting with their clients, and then forced to sit behind a screen. What I want to say about this transformation and what we've seen really happen here is that all of these interactions and changes were extremely difficult. And that's not because the technology was not available to us. It's because we're human beings, and that's how we live, it's how we work, that's how we play. It's through interacting with people. We interact, we engage, and that's how we learn, and that's how we evolve. So I'm just going to repeat that again. I said the interactions were extremely difficult, and that's not because the technology was not there to assist us, but because we're human beings. And the data definitely shows that through how we saw the evolution of video conferencing take off from March of 2020 to now. If we go back to Microsoft Teams, in 2019, Microsoft Teams had 20 million average daily users. At the end of Q4 of 2020, they had 115 million average daily users. Zoom started with 10 million active daily users, and Zoom switched to 300 million active daily users, and now Google Meet is averaging 100 million active daily users. So what this means is that all of our perceptions have really undergone a huge transformation. And so to dive deeper into this transformation, I want to start just by taking a step back and thinking about what happened in the professional audio video industry and how it really has changed in the progression of technology. First, think pre the 1990s. Everything was live communication. If we were going to meet, we were going to go meet in person. We meet at a coffee shop, or we would just meet to talk at live events and trade shows. Then we merged the in-person meeting with technology being alongside of us. And that really drove how we worked from the 1990s all the way up to 2020. This keynote, this presentation, I would have flown probably to Pittsburgh or wherever it was going to be hosted. We would talk in person. I would get to see your facial reactions. You get to see my facial reactions. And the technology really here is just for visual effects to kind of cater to the conversation, follow along with the conversation, but it wasn't the main piece. But now in 2021 and post 2020, without the camera without the screens that are in front of me, without my PC, I cannot communicate with you, and you cannot communicate with me. So all three aspects of this progression of technology are really now merged, because we're still communicating, we're living through the technology, and now it is at the center of where we are today. This year really has taught us a lot on how the technology can be used and really brought forward. And no one has studied this more than Crestron's longtime partner, Microsoft. Microsoft, over the last year, with the emergence of Microsoft Teams and really the catapult of it, they have studied what the future of work is going to look like based on the interactions of what we have seen occur over the last year. And I just want to rule 4 of them out. There are a few more in the study, but I think 4 of them really are key to us driving technology and what's changing in our industry. The first is that audio is king. The clarity and the quality of the audio is way more important than the video in video conferencing. It's kind of ironic. But if you cannot hear me clearly, if I was not being consistent when I spoke to you, if there were delays or crackles, or when you were talking and I overspoke on top of you because the latency in the platform wasn't good, we would not be able to communicate effectively. And that completely detracts from a lot of meetings. It detracts from a lot of discussions and communication with each other. And that is why audio is so primarily important in this video conferencing aspect. And it continues to be extremely important. Second, that Microsoft learned is that video conveys a social presence. And that lends itself to intimacy and immediacy in the conversation. Without the camera right now, you wouldn't be able to see my face. You wouldn't be able to see my facial reactions. You wouldn't be able to see my hand movements. I'm a very visual person. I usually speak with my facial reactions and my hands. If we were in person, I would do the exact same thing, no difference. But without the video aspect of that, you wouldn't be able to see that. So it is extremely important that video continues to provide that social presence. In addition to that, as many of you have seen, the one-on-one conversations and the small meetings are extremely important to know that people are listening or interacting with you by looking at the camera. And if they didn't have that camera, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart. Especially in this event right now with me speaking, I'm used to seeing an audience of people and getting your facial reaction, not speaking to a void. And that's kind of difficult actually today, because right now I'm just speaking to the camera, but that is exactly why Microsoft pointed out that video is extremely important. And some of the stuff is obvious, but it definitely needs to be reiterated. The third thing is this audio, video, and side chat. The concept of side chat really was not established prior to 2020. I mean, people did it, they texted on the side, but it was kind of rude and not appropriate in meetings to be talking to your colleagues about the topic that's being discussed about. But what they have seen is that that side chat actually is making conversations more effective. People are coming to consensus. If someone in a class doesn't understand something, they can actually speak to their classmate in parallel to learning from the professor. We don't know what that means for the future of work. We don't know if that, when we get back to the workplace or the hybrid workplace, which I'll talk about in a second, if that is going to continue to remain a prevalent or a thing. But it is definitely something to look out for. And then lastly, the fourth point is that video conferencing is now normalized. The numbers that I mentioned to you before are not made up, they're real. And with that, video conferencing is no longer a novelty. So in order to provide education or higher ed facilities with the appropriate technology, to provide corporate offices with the appropriate technology, or government operations centers, network operations centers, so on and so forth, we need to be able to combine all of these platforms to really bring about the best in the technology and the best in what we can do together. And with that, I know that many people thought in the beginning of the pandemic it could have been the end of the office spaces because everyone was working from home and everyone's being so efficient from home. But what we're really seeing is that hybrid work is going to become the future. You work from home and be successful. You can work from the office and be successful. Because as I said, the in-person content and discussions are extremely important to the intimacy and the conversations. Some people don't want to talk about certain things on camera, and they only want to talk about certain things in person. And that's just because of our human nature, like I said before. So I'm going to say that that study definitely pointed out some obvious things. And the first of those is that audio needs to be crisp. And I know I have been working with many of you or many customers who, prior to the pandemic, we had audio issues or we had to fix audio issues to provide that perfect, clear audio in the higher ed spaces, or government operations centers that wanted to provide that low latency video to accomplish any application that was necessary. But what I think is really happening is that the bar is just being raised even higher after the pandemic. And the hybrid future of work, whether I'm in person or whether I'm remote, both participants are equally important to the conversation, just like everyone was equally important to the conversation when we are remote. And there will be a challenge in the technology in order, and that is something that we have to all solve together, to provide our end users, to provide our basically our customers who are interacting with the technology the best of both worlds. So whether they're working from the home office or whether they're working in person, that we can communicate effectively and really drive our conversations. So with the office changing and with the hybrid work being the future, that only doesn't speak to the office. It also speaks to the common places that we haven't been really at, but we're going back to now. And those are the casinos, the sports books, the arenas, the time of us for like enjoyment, in higher education, going back to school and playing with the technology and living through the technology. And NASA, I'll have a case study to talk about at the a little bit later on. But there have been a lot of different applications that have been deployed out throughout this last year that have completely transformed the way that we work and the way that we live. And those spaces and those places are going to continue to evolve and transform post COVID-19 as the technology and as video conferencing is ubiquitous in our daily lives. In addition to that, the modern education technology environment is also going to change yet again. And I am going to say that I think that the modern education technology was already changing before 2020. 2019, 2018, active learning had become a thing. Moving desks around and basically combining workstations was a thing. But one thing that I thought was interesting, and I was thinking about this as I was preparing for today, is that I had a lot. I speak a lot to end users, higher education facilities, and sometimes professors as well. And before 2020. Some professors were hesitant because they weren't sure of the effectiveness of teaching through, obviously, technology, through video conferencing. But in 2020, when everyone was forced to do it, it worked, right? It worked for what we had to do, right? We had to continue moving on. So as I said before, for the hybrid of working, the same is true for the hybrid of the modern education technology environment. Right, that is going to have the same aspects of providing the in-person classmates or students with the remote classmates and students. They have to have that perfect audio. They need to be able to see the video effectively, and they need to really provide that overall solution. So that brings me to Crestron. I mentioned corporate offices, I mentioned education, I mentioned government, and a lot of the common spaces. All of these places have similar spaces, and I did not mean to rhyme there, but it just came out. There are offices, there are meeting spaces, there are medical facilities within the office or within this school. There are sporting arenas. All of these spaces need to be able to interact, to grow and scale with the organizations as we continue to evolve, deploy new technology, and really bring us forward. And what Crestron is doing is we are building platforms that enable you to be successful. From our audio and video distribution platforms to our video conferencing platforms to our workplace technology platforms, our touchscreens and control platforms. All of these platforms are really to provide the best experiences for our end users. We want to build technology and platforms that offer long-term value and growth, that you can scalably deploy and manage, and that you can support securely throughout your environments, especially with managing now through the cloud, because we know that we're deploying more rooms, more conferencing aspects than we ever have before. In addition to that, we know that customers and end users want technology that's easy to use. If one thing that we've all become accustomed to, it's when we sign on the computer in the morning during the pandemic, we press join the meeting and everyone gets going. That simple one-click, easy-to-use experience has to be translated into the classroom, has to be translated into the office space. And our platforms are built to do that. In addition to that, this transformation that we just saw over the past year is not going to stop. Video is going to get better. Audio is going to get better. We're going to be able to work at lower data rates, which will allow us to basically communicate from anywhere. With that, we need the platforms that provide us the greatest flexibility and the choice of deployment. And with that, I want to talk quickly about partners and partnerships. They're extremely important in the professional audio video industry, as well as in the video conferencing space, and really to tie all this technology together. So by working with our partners like Microsoft, Zoom, LG, Samsung, Sony, many others that I don't have on the screen here, by building platforms that enable the new technologies for video conferencing and having the ability to translate across all spaces, we are working to deploy the best technology and build the best technology to provide our end users a successful experience as this transformation continues. So with that, I'm just going to talk about 3 of our key platforms. First is Crestron Flex, then Crestron Digital Media, or DMNVX, which is our AV over IP distribution platform. And then lastly, the platform that ties it all together, our Crestron XIO Cloud, which is our IoT-based management platform. So first, talking about Crestron Flex. In the beginning, I started off with a quote from Satya Nadella, and he said that people need to work flexibly when, where, and how they want to do that. As I mentioned in the middle, this is a hybrid story, right? Some are going to be remote, some are going to be at home. So how do we provide that comprehensive solution that allows you to say, when I log into my home office, it's the same exact experience when I get into a small room, a medium room, or a larger lecture hall at an education facility. And Crestron Flex provides that capability. We have personal phones that allow you to communicate at home or in the office that give you that same connection and experience through Microsoft Teams. We have the ability to run Zoom and Teams on the platforms to provide that single one-touch to join connection experience. In addition to that, we know that video conferencing and video collaboration, being the future of the center of the workplace, is way more than just giving a consistent audio-video experience. It's about having you have the tools to build out your environment and provide that application or specific applications for your unique needs. And with Flex, you can go beyond collaboration. We can control the displays. We can turn the lights on, the shades. These platforms allow you to seamlessly integrate with Teams, Zoom, Meet, and the other video conferencing services that are out there, really to empower and provide that normalcy that everyone knows post-pandemic. Going into digital media and DMNVX. Crestron's digital media platform for over a decade has provided customers and end users the ability to route audio, video, control, and USB from one destination to another. This platform has undergone a huge transformation in our industry. First, by starting off the transport of analog signals, then to digital with HDMI, and now we're on the network. And this portfolio, this platform, provides you the ability to give a simple video conferencing extension to an all-in-one room solution to DMNVX. When I mentioned before about Crestron's platforms and the ability to migrate and provide continuous value of service, we never develop one-off solutions. And what I mean by that is, if we see a problem that we have to solve, there are typically a number of ways that we could solve it. We also know that there are a number of ways that you can be successful in your deployments. And what we do is we develop technology and platforms so that we can continue to provide updates to you, so that a box that you may have bought in 2018 or 2017 that did one thing at the time moves and progresses with the transformation of technology of today. So with DMNVX, our AV over IP solution, that is extremely relevant. Since we launched DMNVX, we have provided 80 new features to the market. So that means that if you bought the box in 2017 or 2018, today, if you loaded the latest free firmware update, you will have features like enhanced security, enhanced cloud connectivity for the management, the ability to support new resolutions and formats like HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision on certain models. And with now the launch of our new audio over IP platform, DMNVX, which is based on AES 67, every DMNVX that we have shipped since inception, which is 450,000 units, will now receive AES 67 audio natively, so that they can connect to Crestron's audio over IP platform, as well as the hundreds of other audio over IP and Dante-enabled devices out in the market. Us enabling that feature alone just provided you the continued investment protection for the platforms that you purchased, and also the sustainability for the future as the technology continues to transform. In addition, I just want to point one more thing out for NVX. Security is of an utmost importance in all that we do at Crestron. And with NVX, we are not only just providing firmware updates and feature updates, but we're also enhancing the product security stack. So it is currently under a NIAP certification to receive common criteria, so that it can be deployed in the most secure government and military environments throughout the world. And that's just another example of how a device that you could have purchased today will continuously receive updates and evolve as the platform and technology transforms. And then lastly, actually, sorry, before I go there, I mentioned the case study I want to talk about. Flex and NVX, the two platforms I just mentioned, were mission control for NASA at Jet Propulsion Laboratories. Throughout the deployment of the Mars rover, DMNVX successfully led the collaboration areas that you can see here in the bottom left of the screen, where the deployment allowed them to route audio, video control, and USB from the desktops to the video walls. In addition to that, Crestron Flex was used to tie the video conferencing aspects into the deployment. So this is a perfect example of how our platforms can come together and really provide a full cohesive experience in a normalized environment today, with video conferencing and audio video distribution so necessary and prevalent to give that great experience and raising the bar even further. So the third platform that I mentioned is XIO Cloud. And XIO Cloud is something that Crestron is continuously investing in and continuously bringing out. And this is so important for what we're working on today. Because of the wide adoption in video conferencing technology, we've seen an exponential increase in the number of devices and rooms that are being deployed and that have to be managed by our end users. So not only are the end users expecting a simple experience to set up and deploy, but we're also seeing that the technology managers and the installers also need that same experience to manage and make sure that the operation is running successfully. This is not a transformation that is new to IT or to the industry. The exact same thing happened with enterprise software. But what we're seeing is that the need for deploying video conferencing and room scheduling and audio video distribution and telephones, all of that is so important for the aspects of managing the operation, to making sure that these deployments are successful and that we can continue to migrate the technology and transform as we progress. So with XIO Cloud, we have invested heavily in making sure that you can manage all of your workplace technology. we created a suite of operational tools that enable the integrators to deliver technology as a service, and so that the organizations can operate efficiently and have a greater peace of mind to know that the rooms are running, technology is being updated, it's working, everything is communicating together. And we are going to continue to invest in this platform by not only adding new features, adding new dashboards, adding new analytics to it, but also making sure that every Crestron product from day one has all the capabilities built into it when they're released. In addition to that, we are also working out with our partners. And one partner that I could speak to today is Samsung. All the Samsung displays for the last 2 years that have been deployed, the commercial displays that have been deployed, now have the ability to have native XIO Cloud, basically ingest. So XIO Cloud can see those displays natively. And we are working with our other partners in the display industry also to make sure that they can be enabled and connected directly to XIO Cloud. So with all of this, I spoke about the changes in video transformation. I talked about video conferencing, Crestron's platforms that really provide a full solution to not only give you the simple experiences or the simple video conferencing aspects, but also the audio video distribution to build out more complex, like what you saw for NASA. And the future is very bright for technology. We're going to look and see higher resolutions now are becoming more mainstream. 8K is now, HDMI 2.1 was just announced for the new Apple TV. 8K is now in the Xbox and PS5. That is going to become something that comes into and bleeds into the professional audio video industry. In addition to that, I mentioned before, the audio needs to be crisp and clear, and providing that same remote and in-person capability, everyone's equivalent now. So the technology that we provide and our platforms that we can provide transform how you can experience and work in these new hybrid working environments. And with XIO Cloud tying that all together, you can manage that effectively, take your transformations and provide and receive the updates and have the ability to monitor that all through with new analytics, new dashboards. And at the end of the day, the future of technology really enables us to have platforms which drive the efficiency, the flexibility, the scalability, and the ease of use throughout all that we're doing as we continue to move on and progress and transform. So I spoke a lot today about the different platforms and the transformations. There is a Crestron Keynote of 2021. The title is Innovation Fuels Us. A lot of the things that I talked about today will also be talked about in this keynote. But in addition to Crestron's being there, we will also have partners joining. So Microsoft will be there, Samsung will be there, Zoom will be there, as well as other dealers and end users. So it is a great event to listen, learn, and meet. And thank you very much for having me today. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.